Hi all, my name's Trish Roberts and you're listening to LiveVegan. This is podcast number 17. With the kind permission of Professor Gary L. Francione, I would like to share his blog essay, A Revolution of the Heart. Dear colleagues, many animal advocates assume that we need an organization, some organization, in order to advocate for non-human animals, that we need a leader, some leader, to show us the way. I suggest that this is the wrong way to look at things. Unfortunately, in a world in which everything is commodified, social justice has, not unsurprisingly, itself become a commodity, and it is sold in various flavors by corporations that compete for shares in the market for compassion. These companies have done a marvelous job in convincing us that participation in all moral struggles, including and particularly the struggle for animals, means writing a check to them. In a world in which we accept 1,000 different hierarchies, without even noticing that we do so, and without even questioning the very concept of hierarchy, we assume that we need leaders to show us the way. These leaders are generally the executives of the compassion companies, and merely to disagree with their pronouncements is to be branded as, quote, purist, end quote, elitist, end quote, divisive, end quote, as a, quote, basher, end quote, or one who, quote, vilifies, end quote, or as one who, quote, does not care about animal suffering, end quote, etc., etc., etc. I suggest that this way of thinking stands in the way of achieving the goal that we seek. We are not going to get anywhere by tinkering at the edges. We are not going to get anywhere by promoting cage-free eggs, quote, happy, end quote, meat, or organic milk. We are not going to get anywhere by sitting naked in cages and proclaiming that we are pandering to the sexism that insidiously corrodes our culture, quote, for the animals, end quote. That whole approach merely reinforces the notion that we can consume our way out of injustice, that we can trade one form of exploitation for another, that we can buy compassion. We can't. In a world in which women, people of color, children, the elderly, the mentally disabled, the poor, and other humans are treated as second-class citizens, in brackets at best, end brackets, by the select patriarchy that runs the show, non-human animals are, in many ways, the most vulnerable among us. We can not only torture and kill them with complete impunity, we are expected to do so. Although violence against another human may incur some form of social criticism or even a criminal sanction, violence against non-humans is generally considered as a virtue, particularly when it is declared to be, quote, humane, end quote. Those who refuse to participate in the carnage are regarded as abnormal and antisocial, even by, and particularly by, the large animal organizations that proclaim that to eschew all animal products and promote veganism as a moral baseline is, quote, extreme, end quote. It is wrong to characterize the farmers or vivisectors or furriers as our, quote, enemies, end quote. They are simply fulfilling a demand from us. They are simply doing what we want them to do. They are not the problem. We are. The abolition of animal exploitation requires a paradigm shift. It requires that we reject violence at its most fundamental level. It requires a recognition that violence is inherently wrong. The abolition of animal exploitation requires a non-violent revolution, a revolution of the heart. That revolution is not going to occur as the result of any leader. It can only occur within each and every one of us. And it can if we want it to. We do not need leaders. We need to recognize that each of us can and must become a leader if we have any hope of sorting out this mess that we call our world. That starts with our own veganism, not as some sort of, quote, flexitarian lifestyle, end quote, issue, but as a basic, fundamental, and non-negotiable commitment to non-violence. Ethical veganism represents our commitment to the notion that we have no moral justification for using animals, however, quote, humanely, end quote, for our purposes. It continues with our daily efforts to educate others in creative, positive, and non-violent ways about veganism, something that each of us can do if we want to. Every day we have opportunities to educate family, friends, colleagues at work, and people that we encounter in a store or on a bus. Is it easier to write a check to someone else than do the work ourselves? Of course it is. but it won't work. To achieve justice, we do not need corporations. Indeed, the more we rely on them, the further we will stray from our goal. We need a grassroots movement that demands peace in a peaceful way. Unfortunately, animal organizations have become modern sellers of indulgences similar to the medieval Catholic Church. Many, perhaps most, people have some concern about the matter of animal exploitation. Many have nagging guilt about continuing to consume animal products. Many love their non-human companions and treat them as family members, but stick forks into other animals and, on some level, recognize the moral disconnect. But not to worry, make a donation and these groups will make it all better. They will, quote, minimize, end quote, animal suffering. They will, quote, abolish, end quote, the worst abuses. I suggest that just as buying an indulgent from the church would not keep you out of hell if hell exists, buying a few shares of cage-free egg compassion from some organization is not going to keep animals out of the hell that most certainly exists for them, and in which they suffer and die every day. We need to change the way in which humans think about non-humans. We need to change the way that humans think about violence. Whether it's wars to achieve peace, or sexism to achieve gender equality, or more, quote, humane, end quote, animal torture to achieve greater consciousness about animals, we need to challenge the very notion that violence can be used as a means to some laudable end. Please understand that I'm not saying that those involved in the welfare or new welfare groups are insincere. For so long we have all been told that it's the only way, that it is welfare reform or nothing. I'm not making any moral judgment about them as individuals, and I hope they are not making any moral judgment about me, even though they reject the abolitionist approach to animal rights that I have developed and defend. I just disagree with them, and I point to the present state of affairs as compelling proof that their approach to the problem simply is not working. If anyone regards these comments as, quote, bashing, end quote, or, quote, vilifying, end quote, anyone, please know that certainly was not my intention. Thanks for listening. You can find Professor Francione's blog at abolitionistapproach.com, and come join me on Twitter. That's twitter.com/LiveVegan. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/LiveVegan, or join our page on Facebook for all things abolitionist vegan. That's facebook.com/LiveVegan. As Professor Francione has stated, regulating animal exploitation through welfare reform is like regulating torture by adding padding to the waterboard. If the conduct is wrong, we should advocate its cessation, not propose that we impose harm in a, quote, better, end quote, way. And remember, go vegan. It's easy, it's better for you and for the planet, and most importantly, it's the morally right thing to do. Till next time, bye for now.